राज करवे मारे नित्य आराधना जिन राज करवे मारे नित्य आराधना ले जो स्वीकारे वे अधूरी उपासना ले जो स्वीकारे एवे अधूरी उपासना मळ जो निरंतर शरण तमारू
Jai Jinendra, and a warm welcome to everyone to this evening's SCVP adult class. Before we go any further and before I introduce the speaker for today, as is customary, we will start off with a prayer. And today we have none other than Arav Dodia. Arav Dodia is 8 years old. He's a student of the Praveshika class. So SCVP run 7 different classes, and Praveshika is the second class from the youngest age group, so the second youngest age group. So Arav, over to you whenever you're ready.
Om Namo Arihantaram, Om Namo Sitaram, Om Namo Ayariyaram, Om Namo Uvajayaram, Namo Loe Savasahuram, Eso Panjanamo Karo, Sava Pava Panashanu, Mangaladam Cha Savesim, Paramam Have Mangalam.
Fantastic, Arav, that was so good. A real big round of applause. Actually, if we all unmute and give Arav a really good round of applause. He's done very, very well there. So well done, Arav. And hope you're going to stay for the rest of the lecture as well, yeah? Okay.
Maybe.
Yes, I'm sure you will. Okay, a very warm welcome to everyone for this evening's lecture. First and foremost, on behalf of the trustees and teachers of SCVP, we hope all of you are keeping safe and well in these very uncertain times we're living in. And I think the one way to get out of a lot of this is the spiritual journey, which all of us are hopefully going through. And that's one thing which will see us through. So continuing from last week's riveting talk from Rajeev Bhai, who's our speaker today, on Acharya Hemchandra and the Saklarhat Sutra. Rajeev gave some fascinating explanations in Sanskrit, Hindi, Gujarati, and of course English last week as well, in his usual fluent style and knowledge. And really, actually, without further ado, what I'm going to do now is hand over to Rajeev Bhai to continue from where you left off last week. Rajeev, welcome.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. Jai Jinendra, everyone. Hope everyone is keeping well. Let me just get to the right slide. This is right. So last week we essentially looked at Saklarhat Sutra. It was composed by Hemchandra. We talked briefly about him and Kumarpal Raja, and then we looked at some of the for those who missed the lecture last week, we covered the first 8 verses, and the English translation is there. So let me just give about a minute for you to just read through the 8 verses, and then we'll carry on from verse number 9. Right. So last week we went up to Padma Prabhu Bhagwan, and this week we'll go on to the next verse. Sri Supars Junindraya Mahendra Maitamdre Namaschartu Varna Sangha Gagana Bhoga Bhasvate. So before we start, can I ask people on the audience and maybe use your chat function to see, can you find anything which is common between Shri Ganeshai Nama, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Shri Mahaviraya Nama, and the first word of this verse here, Sri Suparsu Jinendraya Namaha. So anyone who can find anything which is common between all these four, Ganeshai Nama, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Shri Mahaviraya Nama, and Sri Suparsu Jinendraya Nama. Okay, Nama. Many of you are saying Nama, but if you look at the first word here, Sri Suparsu Jinendraya. So there is no Nama here. The others have got Nama. Anyone else? Shri. Okay, someone said Shri, so there is Shri here, there is Shri here, there is Shri here, but this one does not have Shri. Om Namah Shivaya. So there is no Shri in this. Aha. No, not quite. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I think Bindi Ben just got about right. So what's common into all of them is Suparsu Jinendraya Nama. Aya. Ganesh Aya Nama. Om Namah Shivaya Nama. Om Rim Shri Mahaviraya Namaha. So essentially what's common in all these things is the ending I. So let me just step forward to one slide forward. And in Sanskrit, as we have seen, that you have different endings. So Gaja means elephant. And if you want to refer to an elephant as an object, you call Gajam. And so the deity form 4 or 2 is Gajaya. So what that means is, if you want to say for an elephant or to an elephant, you would have this ending of I, Gajaya. If it was from an elephant, then you would have the ending of Gajat. So if you go back here, so essentially what in all these terms, what it means is because the ending is I, it means Nama to Ganesh. Om Namah Shivaya. So I am Om Nama, I'm bowing down to Shiva. Om Rim Shri Mahaviraya Namaha. So I am bowing down to Mahaviraya. And in this verse here, Sri Suparsu Jinendraya. So to Suparsu Jinendra. To Suparsu Jinendra. Suparsu Jinendra. So what about Suparsu Jinendra? Mahendra Maitamdraye. So the next word here is Mahendra. Now, if you know, for example, we are all Atmas. And from Atma, if we do such great deeds in our lives, we become Mahatma. So for example, Mahatma Gandhi, or if we refer to our Acharyas as Mahatma. And how did and we looked at the Sanskrit in the first lesson that Mahatma ends in A, the next word begins in A, and therefore it just continues. If you combine both these words together, it becomes Mahatma. Now, the next word here is Mahendra. So, you know, there's a lot of people who are called Mahendra, Narendra, Jitendra. So that's a combination of two words. Maha means great and Indra. So when you combine these two together, how do you combine them? What's the rule? So let's look at the next slide. If the first word ends in A or A, and the next word begins with E or E, the long E, then you form a new vowel, you change them to A. Similarly, if the first word ends in A or A and the next word begins with U, you change it to O. So as you can see how this has been applied in this verse here, that Maha plus Indra becomes Mahendra. Because the A and the I, when they've combined together, you remove them and the rule says you have to change it with A. So Mahendra. So Suparsu Jinendraya Mahendra Maitamdraya Namastar tu Varna Sangha Gagana Bhoga Bhasvate. So what is the essence of this verse? What this verse is saying, that just as in this universe, you've got lots of planets, you've got the galaxies, the sun is a shining star. Similarly, O Lord Suparsu Jinendra, we have got our Sangh here, Chatur Varna Sangh. We have got sadhus, sadhvis, Shravak and Shravikas. And in this Sangh here, you are the shining star. So, Bhagwan apne praise kariye chiye. Even apna Acharya Maharaj pan hoy, Guru Maharaj pan hoy, and someone who is very learned, amongst all of them, you are a shining star. So that's one analogy given to Sri Suparsu Jinendraya. The next one is saying Mahendra Maitamdre. કે જે ઇન્દ્ર મહારાજ હોય દેવલોકમાં એના પણ જે કિંગ્સ હોય મહેન્દ્ર ઈ પણ ભગવાનને અત્યારે bow down કરે છે. So can you imagine, because in the heavens they have got so many devs and devis, and amongst them we have got someone who is so great. They are the ones who are bowing down to Suparsu Janendra. So ભગવાનને આપણે so look at the translation here. We bow down to Sri Suparsu Janendra Swami, who is like the glowing sun among the Chaturvid Sangh, monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen, and whose feet are worshipped by the Indras. So every verse is taking some analogy of each Bhagwan and then comparing them to some other elements like nature or some of the qualities of the Aryan Bhagwans. The next. So one thing, again, I will not dwell into it. There's another word here, Namaschartu Varna Sangha. Again, another principle of Sanskrit is actually applied here. When something ends in aha and begins with cha, then you have to, when you combine them, it becomes cha. So that's why if you look here, Namaschartu Varna Sangha Gogana Bhogabhasvate. So that's why that's being applied here, but we'll not go into the details. So this is again the Murti of Suparshanath Bhagwan in Porter's Bar. So આપણે ઓમ શ્રી સુપાર્શ્વનાથ ભગવાનને કોટી કોટી વંદન કરીએ. So the next verse here. Chandra Prabha Prabhaschandra Marichi Niche Yojvalla Murti Murta Siddha Dhyana Nirmiteva Shriyestuvaha. What is this verse trying to convey? What this is saying is that Chandra Prabhu Bhagwan je છે, આપણે Chandra Prabhu Prabhos Chandra. And it's trying to convey that in Bhagwan je Murti je bani છે, it's been made of જે આપણે મૂનના જે rays હોય એના rays પ્રમાણે કે ભગવાનની મૂર્તિ બની છે. And they're not comparing Chandra Bhagwan, Prabhu Bhagwan to the sunlight, because sunlight ni je intensity છે, it's very bright, very intense. But if you look at the moon, it's very calm, very soothing. So અત્યારના ಈ ચંદ્ર પ્રભુ ભગવાનની એના ભગવાનની મૂર્તિ એવી રીતના એને કમ્પેર કરી છે. મૂર્તિ મૂર્ત સિત ધ્યાન નિર્મિત એવ શ્રેયસ્તુ વહ. What is it trying to convey? કે આ જે ભગવાનની જે મૂર્તિ બની છે, it's now giving another principle of in Jainism. There are 4 types of meditation. આપણે કહે છે અર્થ ધ્યાન, રૌદ્ર ધ્યાન, ધર્મ ધ્યાન and shukla dhyan. And out of all these 4 types of meditation, Shukla Dhyan is the purest. And Shukla is actually given an analogy to white forms of meditation. So, okay, Bhagwan, Tamari Murti, again, it's being formed by the Shukla Dhyan. So, if you look at the translation here, may you achieve the wealth of knowledge by the sight of the image of Chandra Prabhu Swami, which is lit by the rays of moon and helps us achieve Shukla Dhyan. Now, Gujarati છે ચંદ્રના કિરણોના સમૂહ means lots of them. જે બી શ્રેષ્ઠ અને જાને મૂર્ત થયેલા શુક્લ ધ્યાનથી બનાવેલી હોય તેવી શુક્લ શ્રી ચંદ્ર પ્રભુ સ્વામીની મૂર્તિ તમને આમ લક્ષ્મીની વૃદ્ધિ કરનારી હો. And again, as you see all these verses here, the Shri is repeated quite often, and Shri means wealth. ના આપણે જો કે આપણે લોગસ પણ બોલે છે, તો લોગસમાં પણ આપણે આવે છે આઈ ચેસુમ અયમ પયાસેરા સાગર ગંભીરા સિદ્ધા સિદ્ધિમમ દેસંતુ ઓ ચંદે સુનિમલેરા. So Bhagwan being compared to the moon and the sun. So in this case here again we are saying Chandra Prabhu Bhagwan ને આપણે moon સાથે compare કરીએ છીએ. And look at how striking resemblance they've done. Bhagwan Chandra Prabhu Bhagwanનું નામ because it's called Chandra Prabhu, they're comparing the verses using the moon as an analogy. So again, this is a Murti of Chandra Prabhu Bhagwan Swami. Again, symbol is a moon. Now, why? One wonders why did Bhagwan naam kem Chandra Prabhu Bhagwan bainu? Because Bhagwan's mother Lakshman Mata had a whim during pregnancy of drinking moon. So Bhagwan naam ekle Chandra Prabhu Bhagwan bainu. So the next verse here, Kara Malaka Vadvishwam Kalyana Kevla Shriya Achintya Mahatmayanidhi Suvidhi Bodhayastuvaha. So what is this? Let's look at the translation. may you achieve samyaktva, equanimity, by the one who has a wealth of keval gnan, and thus who knows the past, present, future of the whole world. Shri Suvinath Bhagwan. ને અહીંયા શું કે જે કેવલ જ્ઞાનની સંપત્તિ વડે આખા જગતને હાથમાં રહેલા આમળાની માફક જોઈ રહેલા છે તથા જે કલ્પાનિત પ્રભાવના ભંડાર છે તે સુવિધિનાથ પ્રભુ તમને સમ્યક્ત્વની પ્રાપ્તિ કરાવનારા હો. This is very interesting here. ભગવાનને શું કહે છે કે imagine you got a fruit in your hand. આપણી હાથમાં એક fruit છે. And when we have the fruit in our hand, we can see it very clearly. We can understand કેવા કલરનું છે, how is it looking, what shape the fruit is, and we can see and we can decide everything very clearly. We can even feel the taste, how texture કેવી રીતના છે. So આ ભગવાનને શું કહે છે કે ભગવાન તમારું જે knowledge છે, it's almost like this કે આપણા હાથમાં આમળા હોય કે fruit હોય, so you are able to see everything of the past, the present and the future just the way I'm able to see like a fruit. And this is give you an example કે ભગવાનનું knowledge કેટલું vast છે. Can you imagine what was happened to me in my past life? Bhagwan will be able to see that as clearly in their keval gnan, just as we are able to see the fruits in our hand. And what's going to happen to us into the future? Bhagwan is able to see what's going to happen to the future through the keval gnan, and as clearly and as vividly as the fruits in our hand. So Bhagwan name keche, and this is with all animate and inanimate objects. Bhagwan je જોઈ શકે છે. So all the modes, આપણે બધા જીવોનો, not only this, and all the જીવોનો ભગવાન જોઈ શકે છે. સુવિધિ બોધયેસ્તુવ. ને આમાં જો આપણે શું કહે છે સુવિધિ બોધયેસ્તુવ. So ના આપણે બોધયે એટલે બોધી. ને આપણે લોગસમાં પણ આવે છે. આરોગ્ય બોહી લાભમ. હે ભગવાન તમે મને આરોગ્ય આપો, give me freedom of any diseases, and bohi આપો, સમ્યક્ત્વ આપો. So can you see that there is a lot of similarities between આપણે લોગસમાં કહે છે ને અહીંયા પણ. ને one more thing here is to look at here કે આપણે ભગવાનને શું કહે છે કેવલ શ્રીયા. As we see, Shri is always wealth. ને ભગવાનનું wealth કેવું છે? કેવલ જ્ઞાન જેવું wealth છે. So Bhagwan has got the ultimate wealth, the wealth of infinite knowledge, infinite darshan. I'm just looking at it. I'll not be going into each of the Sanskrit words because I think the feedback last time was that there was too detailed. So I've kept it here for reference, and we'll just try to understand the essence of each of these verses here. So Suvidinath Bhagwan ni murti che again. Kunthugiri is a great tirth in Maharashtra, and as you can see it's over here. Now Kunthugiri Bhagwan actually બે નામ છે. પુષ્પદંત આપણે કહે છે લોગસમાં પણ આવે છે સુવિહિંચ પુફદંતમ. So Suvidinath Bhagwan has actually got two names. And why is that? The word, first of all, Suvidinath, the mother became expert in all religious rites. આપણે કે વિધિ કરીએ છીએ, પ્રતિક્રમણ શું છે, પૂજાની વિધિ કેવી રીતના કરવાની. તો એવી રીતના જે ભગવાનના મધર હતા રામા માતા, she became expert in all the religious rites. તો આપણે કે સુવિધિ, વિધિ means all the process, and means excellent, expert. So એટલે ભગવાનનું નામ પડ્યું સુવિધિનાથ. But also, whilst Bhagwan was in the womb of his mother, the mother also had a dream and a whim that a tooth appeared in a dream from pregnancy, and she had a whim for flowers. So that's why, as you can see, the name Pushpa Danta. Pushpa means flowers and Danta means teeth. So Bhagwan be naam paida che. So Om Rim Shim Suvidinath Bhagwan ne koti koti vandan. So we now look at the next verse here. Sattvanam Parmananda Gandod Bhedan Vambudha Syadvada Mruta Nishandi Shitala Patuvo Jinaha. So let's look at the translation here. May you be protected by Shitalnath Jineshwar, who is like the clouds that delight the animals in the forest and like the spring of life for Syadvad. આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં એનું ટ્રાન્સલેશન શું કહે છે? પ્રાણીઓના પરમાનંદ રૂપ કંદને પ્રગટાવવા માટે નવીન મેઘ સ્વરૂપ તથા સ્યાદવાદા રૂપી અમૃતને વરસાવનાર શ્રી શીતલનાથ ભગવાન તમારું રક્ષણ કરો. Now, first of all, let's look at this. આપણે આનંદ. We say, I'm happy. But આપણે ભગવાનને શું કહે છે? પરમાનંદ. So આપણે આનંદ ક્યાંથી મળે? I'm very happy. આપણે આ મળે કે મારી હેલ્થ સારી છે. People say, oh, I'm very wealthy. Or we can say, I've got a lot of power. So we are very happy. But now we are talking about Anand, which means spiritual bliss. And that's called the Paramanand. Paramananda. So, hey, Bhagwan, Shitalnath Bhagwan, may you, through your blessings, may we get Paramananda. Now, Bhagwan ne બીજી એક analogy આપે છે કે ભગવાનને શું કહે છે? સ્યાદ્વદ મૃત નિશ્યંદી. So, Bhagwan જ્યારે દેશના આપે છે, whenever he is giving his preaching, Bhagwan uses this concept in Jainism, which is part of the Anekantvad, which is called Syadvad. And Syad means with a particular point of view, a particular perspective. From this point of view, is you there, Sandeep? Okay. Okay. Sorry, I think I lost the internet connection there.
Yeah.
The next analogy which is giving is કે આપણે આનંદ કેવો થાય છે? And this is very beautiful. કંદો તો ભેદ અને વાંબુદ. Let's imagine કે આપણું જ્યારે initial આપણે વરસાદ પડે. And when we first have the first rains, can you imagine that there's been a long period of dry weather, and the first ever clouds comes in, monsoon has started. Can you imagine that all the kids of India ma jare monsoon start thai, chokra bada nachwa mande, they're so happy. And you get that's and then when the first plant actually sprouts, can you imagine the joy which the farmer gets? Ke aje bas jo have crop ugwa maindu. And it's this kind of happiness ke Bhagwan, ke that's kind of happiness we are getting through your blessings. And Shital Bhagwan apane skena blessings ape છે? Patu wo jinaha. Patu means કે apane protect કરે છે. He's a guardian to us. So Bhagwan apane analogy કરી છે કે ભગવાન આપણે જ્યારે blessings આવે, what kind of happiness will we get? And it's given the comparison to the rains and how the plants will sprout when the first clouds come in and when it starts raining. And some very nice words you can see here. શું લખ્યું છે? સત્વાનંદ પરમાનંદ કંદો તો ભેદ નવાંબુદ. Nava means new and ambud means clouds, the new clouds. Now Shitalnath Bhagwan with Derasar, there's a very nice Bhavya Derasar of Shitalnath Bhagwan in Calcutta. Now, and this temple was actually built in 1867 by Rai Budri Das Bhadaur. And he was a mukim to His Excellency the Viceroy, who was in India at that time. Now, looking at this picture here, can again someone use your chat functions and tell me, can you see something unusual, something very unusual in this picture? Like spot the difference or something quite unusual which you can find in this picture. So you'll find that Derasar here. Derasar here. And anything which is peculiar with something which seems very good, Chandni Ben. You got it right. Bakul Bhai also very good. The lady in the picture here. Very, very unusual to see ke jara apnu Derasar hoy, and we have got lots of devs and devis in the pillars. How would you actually see a Western kind of an angel inscribed on the pillar over here? Niche અહીંયા જો આપણે ભગવાન કૌશક મુદ્રામાં છે, ના અહીંયા છે. And let's look at the reason why this is so. Now, this temple was built by a Marwadi Shrimal Jain named Rai Badridas Badur Mukim in 1867. And because he was a Mukim, he made his fortune as a jeweler, serving as a court jeweler to the Viceroy and Governor General. So as you can imagine, he had a lot of influence of the Western, his bosses essentially. And obviously because he was a court jeweler, he had made lots of money, and he said, how can I use my money for something very noble? And therefore, he created this temple over here. And there are actually 4 other temples within this complex here. And these temples are studded with mirrors and Belgian glass, obviously because he was a treasure, sort of a jeweler to the viceroy. He had access to all the foreign and Western dignitaries. So they managed to get this Belgian glass covered with mosaic. So if you go into the temple, the decoration is all done with kind of glass pieces. And it's got some beautiful ponds and gardens surrounding the 4 temples within this complex here. So this is a photo here of the person who Rai Badridas. So as you can see, even within the complex itself, he's actually got Western figurines here. So the decorative pieces, pillars, he's actually got this Western. So he's actually blended the Eastern and the Western, and it's kind of a very unique temple in Calcutta. So Shitalath Bhagwan is the main deity, the Mood Nayak. So we now go to the next verse. Bhava rogartha jantuna makadankar darshana niya shreyasa shiramana shreyasa shreyasestu vaha. What does the first one say? Bhava rogartha jantuna. So jantu means creatures. And creatures ekle akadunyan, and all the creatures, plants, animals, hellish beings, angels, apade badavigya, humans. So akabada jantu kevai. All these creatures are suffering, bhava rog. So and what kind of disease are we all suffering from? The cycle of birth and death. So apade bada, each and every one of us are suffering from this ailment. So the disease, what do? We need to go to the doctor. So analogy su ape che. The analogy ape che. Then the next one, magdankar darshana. Imagine you are in the hospital and tamara either medical test kera hoy ki operation thai gyo hoy, and then you're actually waiting for the doctors to do their rounds. Can you imagine what anxiety you have? You're waiting all day. Haji doctor na theva. Kare doctor aause. When will the doctor give me some good news? And then suddenly you hear the footsteps of the doctors in the next ward. And can you imagine your happiness? Oh yes, Dr. Avavigya, and in a short while, the doctor is going to come and he's going to come to me and then tell me, what are the tests of the results and everything. That happiness you have. Haji the doctor aiva pa nathi, but just the mere feeling, oh yes, the doctor is actually there. The doctor is going to be coming. So, aviritna the analogy kari che, hey Bhagwan, Shreyasnath Bhagwan ne ke che. We are all suffering from this disease of cycle of birth and death. Khali tamaru naam sambri just to see your murti, then our diseases will disappear. So what a beautiful way they've blended in this. The next word here is Niya Shreyasa Shri Ramana. If you look at the word Raman, Raman means lover. And this is a beautiful analogy which has been done in this verse here. Now, in this verse here, Lakshmi. So Lakshmi Lakshmi is wealth. And as you know, in Sanskrit, there are 3 genders. When you have nouns, you have a gender of masculine, feminine, and neuter. And that's also quite common in other languages like French and other languages. So Lakshmi is feminine. Now Lakshmi is wealth. So imagine, let's personify Lakshmi. Apne Lakshmi ne puche, oh Lakshmi, you have got the wealth. You're the most beautiful lady around. No one in this entire universe can compare to your beauty. You also have got the wealth of health. Tamari health, you've got absolutely no ailments. And you've got the wealth of wealth. Imagine there are billionaires around here. They would feel like a pauper near you. So you've got everything. So Lakshmi, who would you look for? Who would you fall in love with? Who would you want as a husband? And then Lakshmi says, I want a husband, in spite of having all this, the husband and the person I'm looking for, I want to fall in love with is mukti, moksha. And can you imagine moksha in Sanskrit is actually a masculine word. So Lakshmi in Sanskrit is feminine and moksha is a masculine word. So what a beautiful blend of even just the grammar and saying, okay, Lakshmi pase baddu che, but yet Lakshmi says, I am actually wanting falling in love. So Raman, so Shri Raman, Lakshmi also wants to fall in love with mukti. But yet I now want the ultimate wealth, the wealth of mukti. I just want moksha. And this is the essence which is in this verse here. So let's look at the translation. One who is like a healer to the ones who are suffering from diseases, and the one who grants the wealth of moksha, Shri Shreyasnath Bhagwan, may he benefit you. ને આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં કહે છે જેમનું દર્શન ભવ રોગથી પીડાતા જંતુઓને વૈદ્યના દર્શન જેવું છે. So વૈદ્ય means doctor. આપણે જૂના જમાનામાં કહે ને કે વૈદ્ય આવ્યા. તથા જેની નિય શ્રેયસ મુક્તિ રૂપી લક્ષ્મીના પતિ છે. So he is the husband of mukti, moksha. એવા શ્રી શ્રેયાસનાથ તમને શ્રેય મુક્તિને માટે થાવો. So here, as you can see, and what beautiful, because Shreyasnath Bhagwan che, so he's the words which they've used also rhyming, Shreya. And again, Shreya means good, well-being, happiness. So Shreyasnath Bhagwan, may he bless us with happiness, well-being. And the ultimate well-being for us also is the well-being of moksha. And as we have seen in all the verses, Vaha comes in. So Vaha always refers to you. Apne ka ma means me, but Vaha always means refers to you. So may Shreyasnath Bhagwan bless you to get the ultimate wealth. Shreyasnath Bhagwan, ne koti koti vandan. Now, if you know, this is the temple in Nairobi, Muniswarat Swami Bhagwan Derasar, and ja apna Muniswarat Bhagwan ni murti che, ne aja Bhagwan, on the Bhagwan's left is Shreyasnath Bhagwan. And incidentally, this is John. He's actually a caretaker of the temple here. And what a blessed soul he is, you know, being an African, and yet he's getting the opportunity to do Bhagwani Seva. Roj Savati Bhagwan jare Pakshal thai, Kyati is there, and Bhagwani Badhu, he looks after the entire temple, cleaning kare and maintain, for maintenance. So again, Shreyasnath Bhagwan is the murti over here in the Nairobi Derasar. So apne Bhagwan koti koti vandan. So the next verse here, Vishwopkar ki bhuta tirtha kruta karma nirmiti sura sura nare pujyo vasu pujya punantu vaha. Let's look at the translation first. May you be purified by Sri Vasupujya Swami, who is always willing to help, who is worship worthy by the gods, and whom humans and hellish beings find worthy of praising. ને આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં શું કહે છે? વિશ્વ પર મહાન ઉપકાર કરનારા, તીર્થંકર નામ કર્મના બાંધનારા તથા સુર અસુર અને મનુષ્ય વડે પૂજ્ય એવા શ્રી વાસુપૂજ્ય સ્વામી તમને પવિત્ર કરો. So what this verse is trying to convey is we have got all these planets here. And Emma, the sun, again, as we saw in the earlier verse, the sun is the center point, is a star. ભગવાનને શું કહે છે કે imagine sur asur. So what does sur means? Sur means all the heavenly beings, and asur means all the demons. જે hellish beings માં જે બધા હોય એને asur કહેવાય. So sura, now if you look at here, sura asur. So the first word ends with sur, and that a begins with asur. So that becomes asur. Sura asur nare. Nar means humans. Abadana, you are actually the master. You are pujyo. So what does pujyo means? You are worthy of being worshipped by all these beings. So આપણે ઘણી વાર કહે છે ત્રણ લોકના નાથ છો તમે, મિડલ વર્લ્ડ, હેવનલી બીંગ્સ, હેલિશ બીંગ્સ ના. તો આ ભગવાન એમ કહે છે કે હે ભગવાન વાસુપૂજ્ય સ્વામી, તમે આ બધાના you are the Lord. You are worthy of being worshipped by them, and it's through your grace we are all sustaining. પછી ભગવાને બીજું શું કહે છે કે હે ભગવાન, તમે તીર્થંકર નાન કર્મ બાંધ્યું છે. તીર્થંકર કર્મ નિર્મિતિ. આપણે બધા જે છે we are doing all actions. Now આપણે actions આપણે શું કરીએ છીએ? We are constantly binding karmas, and because of the karmas we are binding, ghati and aghati karmas, we are going in this endless cycle of birth and death. But hey ભગવાન, તમે કેવું કર્મ બાંધ્યું? You bound a karma of તીર્થંકર નામ karma. How blessed you are. And with this karma, you have actually become a tirthankar. So Bhagwan apne ठीक है. And the next is pujo vasupujya punantu vaha. Punantu means protect. Bhagwan, so wo supashana Bhagwan, may you protect us. Apne pavitra kare, apne protect kare. Now Vasupujya Swaminu, there is a Bhavya Tirth in Champapuri. And Champapuri is the only place where all the 5 Kalyanaks of Bhagwan have occurred. Garbha, Janma, Diksha, Kevalgan, and Moksha. As you know, our choice Tirthankar, they might be born in certain location. Then they might have got Diksha and Kevalgan in some other location. But Champapuri is such a location, Bhagwan Vasupuja Swami, in all 5 Kalyanaks occurred in the same location. Now, this is the Murti of Vasupuja Swami. Apne Koti Koti Vandan Vasupuja Swami ne kariye. Now, where is this Tirth? This Tirth, incidentally, is quite close to Virayatan in Bihar, Rajgiri, as you can see here. And so if anyone does go and visit Virayatan, then as you can see, Virayatan Samet is here and Champapuri is here. So it almost can become like a triangular circuit you can do. The distances are quite vast. So depending on how much time you have, this Tirth is very, very close to the Virayatan in Bihar. Vimala Swamino Vacha, Katakaksho the Sodara, Jayanti Trijagacheto, Jaila Nirmalya Hetvaha. Now, what this verse is trying to convey is, why is there so much suffering in this world? We all have Atma che. And as you can see, that they Atma che, chare gati we keep on, we are Manushya gati che, animal ni gati che, devlok ni gati che, ne narki ni gati ma che. Constantly Brahman karya rakhe che. So, aaj verse mein em ke che, ki apnu je consciousness che, so it's done a very good analogy. Vimala Swami no vacha, katakoksha da sodara, jayanti trijaga cheto, jala nirmal hetva, chit એટલે consciousness. And a consciousness ne એને કેવી રીતના analogy કરી છે? The consciousness is like water. So let's see what the verse is trying to convey. આપણી પાસે પાણી હોય, તો પાણીમાં શું હોય? There could be a lot of impurities. So આપણું, and they're comparing the chit, the consciousness, to water. આપણી પાસે પણ ચિત્ત છે. Our chit means આપણું જે આત્મામાં છે, the consciousness. તો આપણા consciousnessમાં પણ there is a lot of impurities. Which impurities there are? Krodh, Man, Maya, and Lobh. So what we need to do? We need to purify the water, and we need to purify our consciousness. Now look at this verse. The poet Acharya Hemchandra must have been such a clever chemist in a way. Now let's look at, he's comparing this to another full Kataka Sodara. Ek jatnu fal che, fruit. And what is this? What's the speciality of this fruit? Let's look at this text here. If in water, you can have something which is called alum. And when it's added to raw water, it reacts with the bicarbonate alkalides present in the water and forms a gelatinous precipitate. This flow attracts other fine particles and suspended material in raw water and settles down at the bottom of the container. So what is this alum doing? Alum બધા impurities પાણીમાં જે પડ્યા છે એને બધાને attract કરે છે. And after they gets attracted to this, it settles down at the bottom of the water. So the water, if you then filter it, becomes very pure water. In the same way, Bhagwan ne કહે છે, અમારા જે consciousness છે, consciousnessમાં a lot of impurities છે. પણ જો વિમલ સ્વામી અમને જો મળી જાય, then you are like this alum. You are going to remove, you're going to take all these impurities from my consciousness. And once when they are removed, my consciousness will become pure. Can you imagine what a beautiful analogy verse my piche. So let's look at the translation. May the teachings of Sri Vimalnath Swami purify the impurities of the 3 worlds, like the fruit of Gatak, which acts like alum that purifies water. Ne Gujaratiમાં, ત્રિભુવનમાં રહેલા પ્રાણીઓના ચિત્તરૂપી જલને, so you see ચિત્તરૂપી જલને સ્વચ્છ બનાવવા માટે કતક ફલના ચૂર્ણ જેવી શ્રી વિમલનાથ પ્રભુની વાણી જયવંતી છે. So હે ભગવાન, તમારી વાણી is, આપણે કહીએ ને વાચ્ય, so વાચ્ય means the વાણી. Your speech is such that this speech will purify us. This temple here is actually in Matunga in Mumbai. And this temple is actually quite special because this temple has been built by my maternal grandparents. Where they were staying in Bombay, they've actually built a derasar here. And the Mudnayak Bhagwan, it's Vimalnath Bhagwan. So, Sri Vimalnath Bhagwan ne Koti Koti Vandan. So the next verse here. Swayambhu Ramani Spardhi Karunarasa Varina Ananta Jidanantamba Prayachattu Shukashriyam. This is a very interesting verse, and may I spend a few minutes explaining some Jain philosophy. The first word here is saying Swayambhu Ramani. What is this? The Jain cosmology says that at the center of the universe, there is a mountain, Mount Meru. And in the middle part of the universe, Madhya Lokma, if you look at the Madhya Lok, apno apne Jambudvipma che. And the middle world consists of continents and oceans. So apna Jambudvip che, then surrounding this continent is Lavana Ocean. And what's also speciality is if the diameter of this is 1 lakh yojans, some people say 1 yojan is 5 miles, other people say it's 10 miles, but whatever the measure of yojan is, let's imagine it's 100,000 yojans is the diameter of this. Then the Lavana Ocean's diameter is going to be 2 lakh yojans. Then there's going to be another Dhatikand. This is a continent, followed by another ocean, Kalodhati Ocean. Pushkar, Earth Dvip, continent. And then again, Pachi, an ocean aveche. And each one of them becoming twice in size. And so there are a lot of concentric circles around the center of the universe. And if you look through them, the 90th one is the Swayambhu Raman continent, and the ocean is also called Swayambhu Raman Ocean. Now, can you imagine that this dimension is huge? And it's almost like Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean. If you go to the seaside, we'll say, oh, I can't even see the beyond the horizon. It's such a vast ocean. And yet, when you compare to this, it seems very small. So can you imagine our ocean what must be the shore of this this ocean? It's almost anant. It seems like infinite. Now, આપણે ભગવાનનું નામ પણ શું છે? અનંતનાથ ભગવાન છે. So હવે ભગવાનને comparing to this કે હે ભગવાન જેમ આ ઓશનમાં the water seems to be so infinite. એવી રીતના, so what is it saying? May you be granted the wealth of everlasting happiness by Sri Anantnath Swami, who is capable of competing with Swayambhu Ocean and is full of compassion. Yeah, Swayambhu Ocean it's infinite lage, relatively speaking. It's not in actual fact because our universe has got finite dimensions. But because it's so far out and the dimensions are doubling every time, this is almost considered to be an infinite ocean. So Bhagwan is giving us, hey Bhagwan, may you give us everlasting happiness, which is infinite happiness. Ananta Jinantava Prayachattu Shukashriyam. And again, look at the play of words. Anantnath Bhagwan, Ananta Jidanantamba. This is also very nice. Okay, Anant Prabhu, tame kevo amne sukh apso. Anantam, Ananta apso. Okay, hey Bhagwan. So again, the play of words with the Bhagwan's name. Prayachattu Shukashriyam. And this word is made of praya and ichha. Aapne kache prayers karta hoy, ichhami khama samano. Ichha karna sandisa Bhagwan. So ichha means wish, a desire. So hey Bhagwan, it's my desire. Okay, I want to achieve everlasting happiness. So let's look at the translation here. Prayachattu. What does prayachattu means? Apo. Kone apo? Va tamne. So this va means you. So su ape che? Ananta Sukashriyam. Ananta Sukni Sampati ape che. Kon ape che apane Ananta Sukni Sampati? Daya Rupi Jad Bade Swayambhu Raman Samudrani Sparda Karnar Shri Anant Prabhu. Arthat, what does this mean? Swayambhu Raman Samudra Jem apar che. So this ocean seems to be apar, which has got no end. Jadti bharelo che tem Anantnath Prabhu pan apar dayati bharela che. So Anantnath Bhagwan is full of compassion. So this is like saying, Bhagwan tamaru compassion kevit na che. Infinite compassion. And may you bless us with everlasting happiness. So again, Porter's Barma Bhagwan che, Anantnath Bhagwan no, to Koti Koti Vandan, Anantnath Bhagwan ne. Kalpa Drumasa Dharmana, Mr. Prapto Sharirinam, Chaturda Dharmadeshtaram Dharmnath Mupasmahe. So let's look at the translation here. Shri Dharmanath Swami, who spreads the 4 kinds of faiths like the Kalpadrum fruit, which fulfills the desires of all animals, we worship you. And let's look at the Gujarati translation. પ્રાણીઓને ઇચ્છિત વસ્તુ મેળવવા કલ્પવૃક્ષ સમાન અને ધર્મની દાનાદી ભેદથી 4 પ્રકારે દેશના દેનાર શ્રી ધર્મનાથ પ્રભુ અમે ઉપાસના કરીએ છીએ. Now the first word here is kalpadhrumasa. If you now look at the Jain again philosophy, we are in a time cycle. The first time cycle, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. We are in the 5th time cycle. In the first 3 time cycles, it is believed that there used to be kalpavraksh, wish-fulfilling trees. And those trees satisfied all the desires. So there would be no competition between you and me. Mane je pan jotu hoy, whatever I need, whether it's food, whether it's shelter, whether it's wealth, whatever I desire, if I went near the tree, those desires will be fulfilled. And similarly, that would happen to everyone else. So essentially, there is no differences between anyone. And it is then said that in that time, generally there is no dharma, because there is no jealousy, there is no negativities between people. Everyone is satisfied, everyone is happy. So hey Bhagwan, whatever people ask for, the kalpavruksha is the divine. But I'm asking for a different kind of kalpavruksha. Hey Prabhu, I'm asking for the divine tree, that I want this everlasting happiness. Hey Prabhu. And the other analogy which this verse is saying, ke Bhagwan jare deshna ape che, when Bhagwan is preaching, keval nan thai jay, pachi Bhagwan preaches. So Bhagwan je preaches ape che, to Bhagwan ke che ke religion is of 4 types. There are 4 factors of religion. What are they? Dan, shil, tap, and bhav. What does that mean? Charity, chastity, penance, and intention, bhav. So if you have the right bhav, the right intentions, if you follow these 4 main principles, then you're on the road to path, you're on the road to moksha. So, hey Bhagwan, may you bless us. Dharmanath samupas mahe, upasna karo. May you be close to me. May you worship. And upasna also means, may I worship you and may you bless me. Now, Dharmanath Bhagwan, there are quite a few temples here. This is a temple in Ahmedabad. It's called Huti Singh Temple. It's one of the oldest temples in Ahmedabad. It was constructed in 1848. And આમાં જે ભગવાનની મૂળ નાયક છે ભગવાન, એ મૂળ નાયક ધર્મનાથ ભગવાન છે. This is another Dharmanath Bhagwanનું દેરાસર જે છે. This is in Maharashtra. So again, the mood nayak is Dharmanath Bhagwan. And there is another Dharmanath Bhagwan Derasar in Kochi, Kerala. Now, let me give you a brief. When we went there in 2014, it was a spectacular experience we had there. There is a story. Aj Bhayata, he actually told us a story. Ke ekore Acharya Maharaj ત્યાં આવ્યા હતા દેરાસરમાં. And જ્યારે ભગવાન Acharya Maharaj જ્યારે વ્યાખ્યાન આપે, he gave a story. And in the story, he was just giving an example. Ke suppose તમે છો, do you eat at any times? આજે તમે આજે 10 વાગે કોઈના તમે ઘરે જાઓ તો આજે 10 વાગે ખાવાનું આપ્યું, કે તમારા ઘરે તમે જાઓ કોકા તમે 2 વાગે ખાઓ, કોકા 6 વાગે ખાઓ. કે ના. Generally we have a set pattern. We'll have a lunch at breakfast at 8 o'clock, we'll have a lunch, and then we'll have a dinner. So these are set patterns. Somebody will do Vyakhyan. Next day, again he went for the Vyakhyan, and Guru Maharaj same Vyakhyan repeated the same Vyakhyan. So the Bhai was actually wondering, ki apna Guru Maharaj every day they pass on a different message. Why is it that he's actually repeating the same message again? Then he thought about it. Ki Guru Maharaj, tame kem aje pachu same tame Vyakhyan આપ્યું? તો એને સમજાયું કે ભાઈ હું અહીંયા આવ્યો છું and I see કે તમે રોજ કબૂતરને તમે ચોખા મૂકો છો. You're putting all this rice to the pigeons. And I've noticed that sometimes you put it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes you put the grains at 10 o'clock in the morning. Do you think that's right? So you can know that's not right. There should be a set pattern for them. So they would expect at a particular time the pigeons can know કે આપણને ખાવાનું મળે છે. So the Guru Maharaj કાલથી તમે એમ કરો, set a time at 12 o'clock and you તમે કબૂતરને એકલા વાગે મૂકવાનું. તો પછી ભાઈ પૂછે કે but wouldn't they get a bit upset because suppose they were હું અત્યારના સવારમાં 8 વાગે મૂકતો હતો કે 9 વાગે મૂકું and they don't see the chokha for until 12 o'clock, wouldn't they get a bit upset? So you can go outside and speak to them. Hey Kabutar, હું આજે તમને આજે 12 વાગે પછી તમને હું આજે ચોખા મૂકવાનો છું. Okay, how will they understand me? Don't worry, just do as I say. And he started doing that. And since that time onwards, what he does is when we went there, આપણે માજનવાડી કજે પેલા હતું એ લોકો થાળી વગાડે, સ્ટીલની થાળી હોય, and then take a spoon and વગાડે. Now it's come on time for lunch. every time જ્યારે 12 વાગે, what he would do, he's take a thali and બધાને કે chalo, 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 and there were all these kabutars here, they're all perched on the rooftops. They'll all gather. ને પછી શું કરે? They actually, આ જે દેરાસર જે છે ધર્મનાથ ભગવાનનું, દેવી એને 3 પ્રદક્ષિણા કરે. આપણે દેરાસર જાય છે તો આપણે કેના 3 પ્રદક્ષિણા કરે છે. So they will actually, and hundreds of them, they will just go round in circle 3 times, and then after they've done the circumambulation, then he comes, manglik bolse, ne pachi the kabutars will start eating the rice grains. And it's a spectacular sight, happens every single day. Lots of Western tourists go there. And again, can you imagine the ધર્મનાથ ભગવાનનો શું પ્રભાવ છે કે every day ને કબૂતર લોકોને કેવો હશે કે આપણે કે we are humans, but can you imagine કે even the birds છે કે કેવો એ લોકોના કર્મ કર્યા છે કે એ લોકોને આવી એક જાતની સદબુદ્ધિ મળી ગઈ છે કે ભગવાનની આપણે રોજ પ્રદક્ષિણા કર્યા, માંગલિક સાંભળીને રોજ આપણે ખાવાનું. The next verse. Okay, yeah. Sudha sodorvyak jyotsna nirmalīkrūta dinamukha mragalakshma tama shante shantinatha jinostuvaha. So this is about Shantinath Bhagwan. May Shri Shantinath Jineshwar Bhagwan, whose emblem is the deer, help you to remove your ignorance, like the rising moon illuminates the dark sky. Here, look at the words. Sudha sodorvyak jyotsna nirmalīkrūta dinamukha mragalakshma tama shante shantinatha jinostuvaha. So Sudha actually means nectar, ambrosia. So the word Bhagwan je vachan che, hey Bhagwan, Shantinath Bhagwan, your speech is like divine nectar. Mraga Lakshma. So Bhagwan lanchan kevu che, lanchan, mrig means deer. So that's like a attribute of Shantinath Bhagwan. The pachi su ke che, nirmali kruta dina mukha. Din ekle su directions. And directions hoy, and comparing them to the mouth. Each of the directions, imagine that it's got a mouth. And each of these direction, moonlight moonlight is actually purifying. The moonlight is going to each of these directions and purifying all these directions. Nirmali. We looked at the word nirmal. Mal means dirt. Nirmal means pure. So hey Bhagwan, you are like the moon. તમારું જે ઓરા છે, તમારું જે છે, it spreads in all the directions. એ બધા directionsમાં what do? You just create purity. And that's the reason why આપણે કેટલા બધા આપણે શાંતિનાથ ભગવાન આપણે આવે છે, આપણે મોટી શાંતિ બોલે છે, આપણે અજીત શાંતિ આવે છે. તો શાંતિનાથ ભગવાન ગમે તેના જે પ્રોબ્લેમ્સ થાય છે, lot of people આપણે શાંતિનાથ ભગવાન કેટલા બધા દેરાસર પણ છે. So may Shri Shantinath Jineshwar, whose emblem, as we said that, is a deer, help you to remove your ignorance. કે આપણી જે ઇગ્નોરન્સ છે એ દૂર કરી નાખે. અમૃત તુલ્ય ધર્મ દેશના વડે દિશાઓના મુખ ઉજ્જવલ કરનાર તથા હરણના લંછનને ધારણ કરનાર શ્રી શાંતિનાથ ભગવાન તમને અજ્ઞાનના નિવારણ અર્થ હો. So may he help us to remove our ignorance. Now, just one, we look at the next slide, and if you just look at this word here, Shantinath Jinostuvaha. And some of you who may know Sanskrit, or if you know how to read Gujarati, you might have seen in many texts this. Can you see this symbol here, which looks like an S? And you might have wondered, what is this S? So let's look at what this S is. This S is called avagraha. And there is actually a rule which says if you put the one word, suppose jinha, apne kitna keche namaha. So it's nama and the ha which comes out. So that's called this visarg. These 2 dots is that ha sound which comes out. And then you add that to another word, astu. Now, in my first session, I said that most of the words in Sanskrit, the word a comes out. So when you say ka, kha, ga, the a word comes out. And if you see many of these words, the ka comes from the throat. Ka, kha, ga. Certain words comes from your tongue touching the palate. So like a ta. So if you say it at home, ta, you'll see that your tongue goes right to the top of the palate. And there are certain words which comes from the 2 lips joining together. So when you say ba, pa. So this kind of words is when these 2 words come to the lips join together. Now, if you look at a is such a word where it's literally flows right from, for example, from your stomach, and it does not require the throat doesn't require the palate. If you just say, so that the sound literally just flow. And sometimes it's actually called that the sound of air is called because it just flows freely. And even when you say Om, so it starts with it flows right from Nabhiti after sound aveshe. And as it comes, then it actually then sort of the lips join together. Om. So is kind of quite a special letter within the Sanskrit. And what does this rule say? That if you've got something which is jinaha and you want to combine it to another word which begins with astu, what happens then? Then the rule says the visarga is replaced by this vowel, like this, which is called avagra. So so you have to remove these two dots and you have to replace with this. The vowel from this vowel is replaced by the silent grapheme, which is called this avagra. So the visarga is replaced by the vowel O. So this two goes, and here you become O. And then this goes, and you then have this grapheme. And then the two words come together. So for example, gaja means elephant, and aswa means horse. So if you want to combine these two words together, these two dots will go, and then that becomes gajo, and then this will go, and then you combine it with this sound. And this is actually how you don't pronounce it. After English, it's my book. So it's that apostrophe S. So this is exactly, so it's almost, this has got the same effect, that you almost, it's like a pause, and it's and you say that. So Santinath Jinos Tuvaha. So that's the reason why we have this, which is called the avagraha. So Shantinath Bhagwan Murti, Om Rim Shiv Shantinath Bhagwan, Koti Koti Vandan. Aaj Shantinath Bhagwan Murti je che, again this is in Nairobi, but before the Majanwadi Derasar, there used to be a temple, Gamnu Derasar, town Matu. There's a town Derasar che, this is the Mood Nayak here, and next to it je che, Ema Shantinath Bhagwan Murti che, Ekli Bhavya Murti che, and it's a very old temple. And it's again quite a fun, because in my childhood, this is the temple we used to go for Pratikaman, and so it's a lot of fun memories at this temple and this murti. So next verse, Shikuntunato Bhagwan, Sanato Tishaya Dvibi, Sura Suranunathana, Mekhanato Stuvashriye. So Shikuntunato Bhagwan. So this is just like saying, hey, Kuntunato Bhagwan, Sanato Tishaya Dvibi. So what does Sanato means? You're accompanied by it. So what is Kuntunath Bhagwan accompanied by? What does he have, Kuntunath Bhagwan? Two things here. Atishaya, and then here you can see Riddhi. So what does Atishaya means? Atishaya means some special characteristics. I've taken some supernatural characteristics someone has. And Riddhi means powers. So Bhagwan has got some special powers. So what is this Atishaya? What is this Atishaya? Their Aryan Bhagwans have got 34 Atishayas, special qualities. Let's look at some of them. Je Aryan Bhagwan hoy, rog rahit hoy. They do not have any diseases. What is some another Atishay? Khun and mash, गाय के दूध समान सफेद होता है. આપણે કજી જોઈએ છે ઘણીવાર પિક્ચર્સમાં કે ચંડ કૌશિક ભગવાનને પગમાં ડંક માર્યો, and what's ભગવાનના પગમાંથી જે blood આવવાની બદલે, which is red, it comes out in the form of white, sort of white blood. So it is believed that the blood, Bhagwan je hoy, it's symbolic, it's white in color. So this is again Atishaya. Humans che, but some very special characteristics. આકાશમાં છત્ર ધારણ હોતા હૈ. આપણે ભક્તામૃતમાં પણ આવે છે કે ભગવાન જ્યારે હોય આકાશમાં છત્ર, you have the three umbrellas ભગવાનની ઉપર. So it's kind of symbol કે ભગવાન જે છે, there is someone very special. આકાશમાં શ્વેત ઉજ્જવલ ચામર ચાલતે હૈ. So already આપણે ભગવાન એક ચામર આવે છે, એ ભક્તામૃતમાં આવે છે, છત્ર ચામર. जहां बैठे हैं वहां फल सहित अपने ऊंचाई से 12 गुण बड़े अशोक वृक्ष बन जाते हैं. This is amazing. As we know that in our, again, Jain philosophy, જ્યારે દરેક તીર્થંકર હોય છે, every તીર્થંકર has got a different heights. So જે આદેશ્વર ભગવાન હતા, we believe that they were huge, gigantic, like giants. Their height used to be phenomenal. એટલે તો આપણે કહે છે ભગવાન પાલિતાણા જે છે 99 વાર ચડ્યા, maybe એક નીચે હતા, એક પગ ઉપર મૂકે તો ઉપર ચડી ગયા. So they could have such huge big bodies, and first tirthankar to second to third to fourth, એવી રીતના દરેક તીર્થંકરની heights coming lower and lower. So જ્યારે પણ ભગવાન જ્યારે બેઠા હોય છે કેવલદાન થઈ ગયા પછી automatically એક ashok tree appears, and what is the height of that ashok tree? 12 times the height of the Bhagwan. So if my height is say 5 feet, then the tree will be 60 feet above me. So if someone is 10 feet, then there'll be 120 feet tree behind the Tirthankar. So this is another atishay કે ભગવાન જ્યારે બેઠા હોય છે 12 times જેટલું મોટું ઝાડ આવી જાય છે અને નીચે બેઠા હોય છે. The other special characteristics, एक योजन तक वाणी सुनाई देती है. જ્યારે ભગવાન બોલે ત્યારે 1 યોજન સુધી people or all creatures can hear the speech. सभी अपनी अपनी भाषा में समझ जाते हैं. જ્યારે ભગવાન બોલે છે that everyone can listen to that speech in their own language, and even animals can understand. આપણે ઘણીવાર જોતા હોઈએ છીએ the birds are chirping, the monkeys could be talking, so they might have their own language. We don't understand that language. They might be communicating. Dolphins make clicking sounds. So all creatures do communicate with one another. In fact, I also recently read that even trees, they secrete some chemicals and they communicate with each other through underground network of roots. So even trees are able to communicate with one another. So abadamati, so every creatures will be able to understand Bhagwan's language in their own language. And naye rog ki utpatti nahi hoti hai. જ્યારે ભગવાન બેઠા હોય છે, there is no new diseases, and even old diseases પણ હોય, if someone is suffering with diseases, that all goes away. So what is this? What is the essence of this verse here? No, sorry. This is I'm sorry. Hey Bhagwan, આજે આમાં કે છે કે હે ભગવાન, you have got the sur asur. દરેક જે if you have the angels, and if you've also got the demons, darekna there's a leader. So for example, apne we saw ke Indra hoy Devis na je head in Indra kevai. So even in the underworld, je apna narki hoy, there must be some dons. Apne kene ke oh, this is a criminal, but criminal there must be some leader. He's like the don. Even in the humans, we are all humans here, but yet we have got prime ministers, we've got kings, presidents. So એ કહે છે કે આ બધા જે છે દેવલોકના છે, the hellish beings ના છે, the humans ના છે, એના પણ રાજા હોય. You are even almighty, you are the raja of all these people too. કે ભગવાન કહે છે આ બધા પણ છે such important people. આજે હું કઈ નથી, પણ આજે prime minister હોય તો કેવી રીતના છે. And there is a hierarchy. Suppose if a member of parliament came here, oh wow, some member of parliament came here, but imagine the prime minister came here. So the member of parliament's importance goes down and the prime minister's importance goes up. So every time hey Bhagwan, you might have all these leaders here, someone who is all powerful Indra, but against you they are nothing. You are the Almighty Lord. Ne Bhagwan, tame and Santinath Bhagwan, you are for spiritual welfare. So sorry, Kuntanath Bhagwan now, we are the next one. So Kuntanath Bhagwan, you are there for our spiritual welfare. So apne keche make nathasu vah shriye. So the shriye again is the wealth. Which kind of wealth we need from you is a spiritual welfare. So may Kuntanath Swami, who is blessed with infinite virtues, who is the unparalleled Lord of the Devas, Manushya and Asur, bless you. Yep. ને આપણે ખાલી અતિશયોની વૃદ્ધિ યુક્ત અને સુર અસુર તથા મનુષ્યના સ્વામી ને અન્ય સ્વામી એવા શ્રી કુંતુનાથ ભગવાન તમને આત્મા લક્ષ્મી માટે હો. આત્મા લક્ષ્મી. So Kunthugiri છે, and Kuntunath Bhagwanનું આખું what a nice pratima છે. So this is Kunthugiri in Maharashtra, and just as we go to Africa and we go on a safari, this many of the pictures which I showed, all these huge murtis, they were in this tirth over here. Just you would actually go in a jeep. તમે જેમ જાઓ on a safari, you would actually go across all these mountains here. દરેક ભગવાનની મૂર્તિઓ અહીંયા એ લોકોએ રાખી છે. As you can see that this is one of a big murti over here, and similarly as you drive through, 24 ભગવાનની મૂર્તિ રાખી છે, and you can do a darshan at this Kunthugiri. And this is actually a Digambar Tirth. I'm almost there, just a few more minutes. Arnathastu Bhagwan, Chaturthartha no Bharovi, Chaturtha Purushartha Shri Vilasam Vitanotu Vaha. So what this verse is trying to say, hey Bhagwan, there's a time cycle here. And what's important here is here first, second, and third time cycle, there are no Tirthankars. Rishabdev Bhagwan comes right towards the end of the third cycle and at the beginning of the fourth cycle. So essentially all the Tirthankars happen in the fourth time cycle. So અહીંયા શું કહે છે કે hey Arnath Bhagwan, you are special in this fourth time era. You are the special personality કે તમે તીર્થંકર બન્યા. And what's very unique, and this which we even mentioned during the first session, કે આપણે ભગવાનને કે અરનાથ ભગવાન તમે કેટલા સ્પેશિયલ છો આ fourth આરાના. It does not mean because all the તીર્થંકers are the same. So which means that whatever is being the analogy is given to Arnath Bhagwan, it's equally applicable to all the other તીર્થંકers. Mahavir Swami Bhagwan, because there is no difference between each one of them. So whilst I'm praising Arnath Bhagwan, does not mean that I'm not praising all the other 23 તીર્થંકers. So hey Bhagwan, in this fourth ara, you are someone special and we are going down to you. So like the sun in the fourth era, so the fourth era, you are like the sun, Tirthankar show. May Shri Arnath Bhagwan help your effort for achieving your fourth goal. So again, you see the play. And this is also quite common even in the Hindu philosophy, that in our life, there are four main phases: dharma, earth, kam, and moksha. And this is actually the way of life. When we are young, we learned how to walk. So we had to do a lot of kam, we had to do a lot of effort. Purusharth karvi padi thi, we had to do a lot of effort. And then as we grew up, we have to study for our exams. The next stage of the life comes, we form a family, we procreate, we sort of enjoy pleasures of life. And then as age progresses, then people say, have chalo, have 50, 60, 70 varas thya have, let's now do dharma, let's do religion. And why do we do this? With the fourth and the ultimate purpose is moksha. So just apne Arnath Bhagwan ne aaj fourth era na ke tame you are like the signing, you're the son of this fourth era. In the same way, in the same way, hey Arnath Bhagwan, aaj four phases of life che, may you bless us with the fourth one, moksha. We are really looking for this one year. We have gone through all these three other efforts and we are really looking for this one year. So chotha ara rupi gagan mandap surya rup Shri Arnath Bhagwan hamne moksha lakshmi ne vilas khub apo.
These jatras you've done and all the temples you've visited, incredible knowledge. And we've got something special for you in a moment as well. So Rajeev is going to recite a few of the verses of the Saklarhat Sutra as well as a closing prayer. Just before that, I just want to make a couple of announcements for events. And again, as Rajeev said, next week is not half term. We have got continuity of the adult class. So please stay with us next week and log on. Virayatan, as you know, is doing the initiative of Vyom. So basically anyone who wants to learn further scriptures, Hindi, Sanskrit, etc., just go onto the Virayatan website, SCVP website, and log on. The entire timetable is there and you can join. I think this is going to last for the next 4 months or so. Finally, a big announcement. We done a teaser last week, but Diwali is coming up and SCVP jointly with Young Jains this year are doing a very big spiritual experience on Diwali day itself, November the 14th, Saturday, November the 14th. All the materials will be coming out to everyone this week on how you can register. But 3 events, one in the morning, which is Chopra Pujan with Vinod Bhai Kapashi. Then something very special, which has never happened here in the UK, a live discourse by Pujya Acharya Shri Taima, together with Sadhuji Shilapaji as well. So that is something very special to look forward to on Diwali day itself. Thereafter, we've got, in the evening, we've got a celebration spiritual program with storytelling, dances, and music around Mari Bhagwan's life and the relevance in Diwali as well. And then the final, from New Year's Eve to New Year's Day, we've got a jap starting at 11 o'clock in the evening, finishing at 1 o'clock the following morning. So Myri Bhagwan Jap as well as Gautam Swami Jap. And again, all of these are very special programs. Everyone is allowed to take part and be there. There's no cost. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. So we really, really look forward to seeing you. So look out for the posters on those and register. One registration per family is enough. So on that note, let's close off with the prayer, and I will hand over to Rajeev. Actually, Rajeev, let's just see if there's any questions. I don't think we've got too much time for questions. No, no questions, just all good words about your delivery and about this evening's lecture. So well done, absolutely fantastic and fascinating lecture today. So Rajeev, bhai, over to you for the closing prayer and the verses of the Saklarhat Sutra.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for your well wishes, and thank you, Sandeep. So for the closing prayers, I'll recite Sacrament Stotra. We are still going through this COVID pandemic area, and Sacrament Stotra is supposed to be very useful prayer. So I'll recite that, and then what I'll do is I'll recite the first 8 verses of Saklarhat Sutra. And then when we finish the 3rd session next week, if time permits, then I intend to recite all the 33 verses of Saklarhat Sutra. Vasagharam pasam vandami ganamuktam vissara visaninnasam mangala kallanayavasam vissara fulingamantam kanthe dhari jo sayamano tasagaro gamari duttha jara janti usamam chittho dure manto tucchapanamo vivo floi Naratirye suvi jiva pavantina dukadogacham tuasamate ladhe chintamani kappapaya vabhaye pavanti avikenam jivaya ramaram dhanam yasanto mahayasa bhatti bharani bharena hiyena tadevadichaboim bhave pasajina chanda Bhave pasajina chanda Saklarhat Pratisthanamadhistanam Sivasriya Purva Swastraishan Marantyam Pranidatmaye Nama Kruti Dravya Bhave Unata Stri Jagajanam Kshetre Kaleje Sarvasmin Narata Samupasmahe Adimam Prutvinatha Madimam Nishparigraham Adimam Tirthanatham Cha Rushabhaswaminam Stumaha Arhantam Ajitam Vishwakamlakara Bhaskaram Amalana Kevaladharsa Sankranta Jagatam Stuve Vishwa Bhavya Janaram Kulya Tulya Jentita Deshna Samevacha Sri Sambhava Jagatpateha Anekantam Tambodhi Samulasana Chandrama Dadhyada Mandamanandam Bhagwan Abhinandana Jusata Kiritashana Gro Tejitantrina Kavali Bhagwan Sumati Swami Tanotu Vyumataniva Padma Prabha Prabodheha Bhasa Pushnantu Vashriyam Antarangari Matane Kopa Topa Divaruna Kopa Divaruna. Jai Jinendra.
Thank you, Rajeev. Thank you all for tuning in this evening. And we wish everyone well, keep safe and healthy, look after yourselves, and look forward to seeing all of you again, same time, same place next week. Thank you. Jai Jinendra.